Previously, when I thought citizen developer, those were the data scientists. Now it is for everyone. Everyone is a citizen developer. They don't need special environments.
Welcome to the / podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm James Carman, and today we're talking to Holly Laiveling. Holly Laiveling has made a career out of walking into messy enterprise environments and making them better, building teams, modernizing systems, and generally getting things unstuck. She just landed a new gig as CTO at FEG Investment Advisors, where she'll own technology and data warehouse strategy. Holly's a big believer in agile, cloud-first thinking, and meeting people where they are. And she geeks out on where things are headed with AI and low-code. Welcome to the / Holly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to geeking out today.
Welcome back to the / I should say. So you've joined us before, so you're a returning guest. This is great.
I feel so much more experienced now.
I think, obviously, yes, of course. So first of all, congratulations on the new job, CTO, FEG Investment Advisors. That's great.
Thank you. Really, really excited about it. Looking forward to it.
So you're going to be doing stuff with, overall technology, but also the data warehouse itself, very specifically working with the data warehouse?
Absolutely. And data is one of my first loves. So it feels good to come back home, so to speak.
Yeah, you had experience at kind of a data analytics company in town here, that spinoff from Kroger or subsidiary of Kroger, 8451 in the past, right? So you're well acquainted.
Absolutely. And I still keep in touch with a lot of people there. Great place.
Well, you and I, we talk pretty frequently. We're kind of talking about this idea of, shadow IT and whatnot. And this seems to be coming up a lot lately. And we talk about it a bit on some of the episodes recently, but it seems to be a trend, and people are talking more and more about it these days. I loved it because you had kind of an interesting take, and that a lot of people don't have. So I wanted to have you back on, and we can kind of talk through that.
Well, I wake up at 2 a.m. most nights. And I have these items that I've put kind of in the backlog of my mind, and they come to the forefront at 2 a.m. and then I can rethink about those. And shadow IT, we've heard about shadow IT. We're both in technology. It's existed for a while. Shadow IT is now shadow AI. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's way more dangerous. So, and another slogan of mine is lead with yes. And actually, I thought about this. I thought about getting it tattooed on my arm, but taken out of context, that could be way more dangerous than shadow AI.
Yes.
But how can we lead with yes with AI? Not necessarily for the technology folks, for everyone. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, folks are understanding, there's this huge democratization of technology capability now, where, with these technologies like ChatGPT or Claude Code or whatever, you name your favorite tool, people can actually build technology solutions. It's very much been democratized. But of course, you hear about the vibe coding and all of that sort of thing and the dangers of that. But it's only going to happen more and more. I think. I mean, AI is not going anywhere, and we need to figure this out. It has always been a problem, but I just think everything is being accelerated lately with this democratization.
The barrier to entry is now zero. So people, even if it's not enabled at work, people have it on their phones,
sure,
on their smart devices. It's here. And what I'm interested in, listen, we're going to use it. How can we use it? How can we secure it? How can we apply governance, but make it easy? Because people are going to use the easy thing. If you have to jump through 10 hoops to use AI, approved AI at work, they're still going to be using their phone.
Yeah, it's like what do people say? Like when it comes to platform engineering, doing the right thing the easy thing or something along those
Mhm.
lines, something like that. I mean,
And
it's the same
making the
idea.
right thing easy is
Yeah.
very challenging.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. Um, with the especially with AI now, you're starting to see this kind of, I don't know, I would say that a trend in the market where you're hearing people talk about these like citizen developers, right? That concept of citizen developer keeps popping up now. What do you think about that trend and how it relates to this shadow AI, shadow IT?
Previously, when I thought citizen developer and going back to my data and analytics days, those were the data scientists. So they weren't quite the IT folks, but they had tech chops. And so you could build them platforms or things like that where they can get an environment or run some Python code or something like that. Now it is for everyone. Everyone is a citizen developer,
Hmm.
but they don't need special environments. And a lot of these tools are now integrated into tools we use every day: Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Back in the day, Excel macros put the fear of God in me. But now people are able to generate, SQL code or other, generate an API and run it. And, how are we going to govern this? How are we going to enable folks? Because we can't say no. We want to lead with yes. But how do we make it safe? How do we make it easy? How do we make it repeatable?
Yeah, I think the being open to it and making it just this is part of how we work, and it's almost like an innovation aspect of it can be of an organization where you're kind of crowdsourcing innovation, if you will. So the front lines are the individual employees. They're seeing things, interacting with things, and they're just trying to get their job done in the best way they know how. And a lot of times, though, they're going to be uncovering that next new big thing, and if you make it such that, they feel, dirty or like they're breaking the rules for doing it, you won't hear about it, right? So that kind of cuts off that ear to the ground when it comes to innovation in the market.
Absolutely. 6 months ago, one of my biggest concerns was somebody putting customer data in Dropbox.
Hmm.
And now, if you don't enable people with the right tools, with the right governance, they can put your entire, customer data set in Chat GPT and not realize that it's training models. So, the capability gap, and we talked about that barrier to entry, that capability gap closed overnight. But now we have the judgment gap, and we need to close that one as well.
So what kind of steps have you seen, that's been effective for kind of um, making it more approachable and kind of reassuring people like, hey, this isn't a bad thing what you're doing. Well, we just want to make sure that we can enable you to do it safely. Oh, all of the things, right? What are some techniques that you found that have been effective and helpful for you?
Well, first, there's this concept of change management, and I'm going to put that to the side right now. But from the tech part, from the technology side, number one, we need to audit everything. We need to know what's going on. So, get that visibility into what's going on today.
Hmm.
And then for me, I like to start simple. Pick one tool, get it approved, secure it, and give it to everybody. Trying to start with three tools is a little tough for someone simple like me.
Hmm.
Um, Create a AI acceptable use policy, so we understand, kind of what the target is, what's okay. And then let's take that change management stuff off the shelf. Now we need to bring folks along on the journey. So, having champions. It can't just be IT coming and saying this, because again, that's not leading with yes. That's putting up barriers. Um, so people handle change different ways at different times. AI is accelerating everything, but that doesn't mean people will accelerate as well. And so there's options. I'm a big fan of options. So the folks who are a little more savvy, who are interested, maybe they can move a little more quickly. Going with something of like a tiered system. Tier one is maybe general use, Copilot chat, something like that. Tier 2 is, advanced, maybe those data scientists we talked about. And tier 3 is maybe just like the innovation lab, IT only. Maybe we're building custom LLMs over there or something like that.
Sure.
So everybody can be safe and experiment in a space that's comfortable for them, and maybe just pushing the limits a little bit, not pushing them over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's always balance. Everything's about balance, right? How do you how do you kind of put this? You talk about auditing and change management. These sound very heavyweight, right? And if I'm a person who's just trying to get my job done, I want to reach for that new hotness tool thing, right? And play around with the shiny new tool. And I don't want to be like, okay, hold on, I got to go tell IT I'm using a new thing and get it approved and go through a change review board and blah 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 blah. Blah. Like I don't want to do that. It's
Yeah.
just too much.
So it's guardrails, not roadblocks. So some of this auditing and things like that, that just happens behind the scenes. People don't need to know about that. Human in the loop is another catchphrase
Hmm.
that I think is really important. Folks can do things, but sometimes the governance is just having a human in the loop. Let's go ahead and have a coworker review that or a manager review that before it goes into a production environment. Light governance.
Light governance, light.
Hmm.
I mean, it's something businesses have to do. I mean, there's a risk there. I get it. So there's a balance, but um, what about from a culture aspect? Have you seen any attempts at, like, some people do like hackathons or these sort of things to play around with new technologies? What sort of approaches have you seen where you're building up those and inviting folks, those citizen developers, where I think you've referred to them instead as what business technologists,
Business
business
technologist.
technologists, inviting those folks to the table, to those hackathons, because they do
Mhm.
have those capabilities now. They can participate and they can, and they're great problem solving skills. They just didn't have the technical abilities before. Now they can take part in those things. Have you seen anything that works, kind of like that?
Sure. So back when I was a baby dev, and I know you grew up in the tech field too, we had hackathons,
Hmm.
and it was technical folks. So you go, you get, you try to amass the best coders, you challenge each other, you go up and you present your creations, and then there was some sort of prize, and of course there was pizza because we're developers.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but then it went into. Do you remember your first hackathon where there was like non-technical people there? I
Yes.
remember I went there and there was a marketing guy on my team. We won. We won because he was the guy that presented our solution. And, it's this light bulb of, hey, we have these diverse abilities. Let's put them together, because he didn't write a lick of code, but he was still there ideating, and he used his marketing lens to help us develop something that he could then sell. And so it's the same thing now. So we had recently, my devs had a hackathon, and it was a GitHub Copilot. And one of the rules was they weren't allowed to write any code with
Mm.
their hands. It was Copilot writing the code. And it was really fun. And it was the first one that we had. And it was kind of a baby step. But next time, we need to have that with our business technologists, with our business folks, because now with the tools, they can write the code just like the developers can. But everybody, it's that superpowers. There's different lenses, putting them together, then you have a better solution than if you just look with one lens. And many business folks are very interested in this new technology.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they see it as, um, you know, um, enabling them to do their work more efficiently, more quickly, all of the above, right? And they're very excited. And they're using it in their daily lives, right? I mean, everybody's using ChatGPT. I mean, I think everybody's kind of got a license for it, or using the free version. Hey, create me a workout, or what's a great recipe that I have these ingredients, and what can I make for dinner tonight? People are using it in their daily lives, and it's only natural that they're going to want to use it in their work life as well.
Now, let me ask you this, James. Obviously, you work with Calibrity.
Hmm.
You work with a lot of different clients. What are the other folks doing out there? Are they embracing the business technologist? How is that changing the other companies that you've seen?
I don't think we're doing a good enough job with it. That's why I was really interested in this conversation, because I don't think the industry is leaning in enough yet. We're not seeing a tremendous uptake. You do hear people talking about, oh, now we've got shadow AI, and it still feels, for the most part, not 100%. Like when I go to conferences and stuff, you kind of, it still feels still like a dirty word, shadow, and they just changed IT to AI, but it still has a negative connotation to it for the most part, by and large. There are other folks who kind of feel like, hey, we need to be leaning in here, and they probably always were in the first place, but um, I don't think we're doing enough. I'd love to see more people leaning in, because I do think, there's, what was the book I was reading? The technology fallacy, where it talked about kind of the different adoption curves, the adoption speeds of the individual and the organization, and then like societal, so like laws and regulations and whatnot. And the curves are always, one's faster than the other, with society being the slowest. I think we need to acknowledge that and lean into it. As I said, I mean, it's an innovation aspect. It's something people are going to be doing research and coming up with new ideas. Like you were saying, all of these different perspectives and these diverse backgrounds are coming at this problem now, as opposed to just software developers. I think this is only going to lead to really kind of a explosion of innovation. Because we have very limited exposure to the business. That's always been a problem. But now, when we can work together on these things, I think we're just that much closer to the business, if you will, and we can work empathetically and more intimately and closely with the problems to make sure we're solving the problems the right way.
With the hackathon that I mentioned
Hmm.
recently, we had a senior level dev, real sharp guy, and he decided to work alone, and the co-pilot with him wrote a solution. It seemed like a real slick little solution. And then the guy who was kind of reviewing the solutions went ahead and added some load to that. Let's go ahead and add 50. Let's add 100 users to this thing,
Hmm.
and it turned over and choked. And so, again, as a developer, sometimes you can build something, but you have to really productionalize the thing. And I wonder if we're going to see some of that, because it's so easy to use Claude or something like that, talk to it, and a non-technical person can get a technical website stood up. But is it going to stand the test of time? Is it secure?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's always been the case. I think AI, of course, just opens up more possibilities for the types of things you can build, and how quickly you can build them. Um, it used to be these things kind of built over time, very slowly, and over, people were using them and they were very hush hush about it, and they wouldn't say anything about it. And then until it became a problem, it became part of their workflow. We weren't even aware. We had no idea, but it became crucial to them. And this was like, this is very important. This is how we make decisions. We found this to be very effective, but it's starting to fall on its face, right? Like that, exactly what you're talking about. So and then we're like, oh my goodness, we throw our hands in the air. I think we need to do a better job of kind of incubating these ideas openly, above board, welcomingly, if that's a word, with open arms. Is that a word? Welcomingly. That doesn't sound like a word. Anyway, with open arms, and help foster these ideas and educate, and try to make sure we're kind of um, can coach along the way and help make sure these things are going to be built well, securely, all of the above, so we can operationalize these technologies, and help people make people's lives better.
And I wonder if IT can build uh, key components,
Hmm.
authorization, authentication, things like that, because the business users with AI are capable of building some of the other things if they want to. Frankly, they might even be better because they have all of that business context.
Mm.
But that's that enabling and the guardrails. Here's some things we can give you to make you go faster, to make sure it's secure, to make sure we have the governance that we need.
Yeah, like I couldn't help but think of, when you mentioned that, like developing MCP servers or something like that internally, that are those building blocks, that innovation toolkit, if you will, where they don't have to try to solve those problems. Those are solved problems. Authentication and authorization, all of those things, those are solved problems. They don't have to reinvent the wheel there. So solving those things, doing it in a secure way, and making them available, whether it be through a developer platform, project templates, MCP servers, whatever you want to call it, however you want to do it. That's to equip them and give them, knock out some of those things that, they would take time to, number one, it would take them time to try to solve, and they probably wouldn't have the familiarity with the subject matter to do it according to Hoyle, so to speak. Do I say so to speak too much? Am I doing it again? I used to say that a lot. Anyway, just never mind me. You're just here along for the ride, Holly. I'm here to just talk to myself.
I know what you mean, so to speak.
Yes, so to speak. But yeah, I like that idea of almost, giving them a toolkit, you know, ahead of time, proactively saying, okay, yeah, let's just make this easier. Let's give you the tools you need to do the right things. You could also monitor those tools or usage to understand, hey, whoa, wait a minute, this group over here is lighting up this tool. What are they doing? And then you might be able to figure out, like, oh wow, that's really cool what you're up to. Let's help you.
I think that's the new face of IT. How can we enable? We're still going to do our cool building stuff that we do, but other people are going to do it on a level as well. And this is where education becomes really important, not sending someone a PowerPoint deck of 50 slides that they need to read. But, back in the day, it was don't click suspicious links. And now it's more like don't tell the robot our trade secrets.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
how are we going to educate people? And having conversations, sharing stories, giving examples is a lot better than having someone, read a deck or go through something where it's not really resonating with them, because now they're going to have more opportunities and they need to understand here's what good looks like for our company or for this area. And these other things, let's go ahead and have a conversation before we do some of this other stuff.
How do you balance kind of the almost like time budgeting aspect of this where, you know, businesses are in business to do something, right? They have a core function that they do and they serve customers and make money somehow. Businesses can't afford to have all the employees out there playing with all the latest, IT tools, AI tools, and all of that fun stuff, and that's all they're doing. We still have to focus on the business at hand and make sure those things are accounted for, and we're still keeping the lights on of the business. Do you, you've heard of folks in the past like, oh, we give 20% time and that sort of thing. Is that still a thing, or do you think that's still effective today?
I think it's changed
Hmm.
because the 20% is going to be woven into everything that we do. So I love metrics. I love data. So I'm a big fan of buy people's time back. So automating, using technology, you can take someone's job today and free up X amount of time, and X depends on really the the mission of the company, how what their risk appetite is, and then also the job the person's doing. But I believe that people need to have that innovation built into everything they do every day. It can't just be from 9 to 11 a.m. on Fridays, I'm going to innovate,
Mm.
because these tools are interwoven into the tools they use every day. So it's a different and new way of thinking. And folks can't get from A to Z, but pairing with someone who has that innovative mindset, talking through some things, and then you can see the sparks. Oh, great, this, that. And then I just step back and you watch them go.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think of a couple of concepts. So, you and I both went to recently a little mini conference about platform engineering. Remember, we went to the brewery place for
Fantastic.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. I think that's going to become even more and more prominent, as you're saying. Like we start to develop these toolkits, these innovation toolkits, and the building blocks that people can use, making those available through those internal developer platforms and all of that to make it easy to consume, easy to create new things using those. So the business technologists don't have to think about, well, where in the world am I going to deploy this thing? Where's it going to run? How do I even get this into Azure or Google or what? How do I do that? They don't have to think about that. Um, I think that's going to be. I mean, it's already been important, but I think even with the AI and all of this, I think it's just going to be so much more important in the future.
And this is where that diversity of experience comes in.
Mm.
If you get some of the folks coming right out of school, you don't have to retrain them. They think this way.
Hmm.
They were born with a phone in their hand. Technology is already their coworker, already their friend. And you can pair that with the experience of someone who's been in the workforce for a while. And it is just fascinating to see what they can come up with.
Wait a minute, Holly. Hold on. Everyone's telling me I don't need to hire junior people anymore. I'll just have the robots do that.
You know what? You go ahead and not hire junior people. It'll leave more for me. And listen, we're going to use the robots as well, but junior people that I hire aren't going to be doing the same things that we had interns do 10 years ago.
Right.
But
Or
the
if they
folks,
are, they do it in like 3 minutes. And yeah,
I know you go to career fairs, talk to these people. It's fascinating. It's really just a different mindset, and it's something that's needed in our workforce to pair with the experience and the knowledge that we already have.
I think we need to cut out that rhetoric, though. Unfortunately, I hope that we haven't done you know um irreversible damage to our talent flow through the universities, and you know what I mean, because there's been a lot of rhetoric around, oh, we won't have software engineers anymore, and people just not going to go to university for that anymore. They're not going to study computer science. I hope we don't have a drought, so to speak, a talent drought. I do fear that's going to happen, but I'm with you in that. I love going to career fairs. It's invigorating for all the young folks, and they are, as you said, they're growing up with these technologies. They're learning it from the get go, as opposed to old people like me having to kind of retrofit it into their ways of thinking and yelling, "Get off my lawn!" all the time. Um,
I don't know, James, you're pretty excited for retrofitting. But
I
do you
am.
yell at people to get off your lawn? You seem like that kind of
I
person.
do. Well, I have a fence around my back lawn, so that helps a lot.
Do you have
But
a
the front,
robot lawnmower?
I don't. My neighbor has one. I thought about
James.
stealing it, but I don't know how I would plug it in. I have to steal the base and all that. It would just it'd be a whole production. Um, yeah, I've thought about it, but no, I do think it's cool. And when I'm looking at when that thing's out there mowing his lawn, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that instead. Yeah, I don't have
I actually think it's a good point because we want the robots to do the things that we don't want to do or that we don't need a human to do.
one.
Now, I actually enjoy my time mowing the lawn, some quiet time to think. Those items we talked about that pop up at 2 a.m., I can also think about those as I mow. Sometimes I lose track and my lines aren't all that straight. But we need to lean into that so it can free us up to do, strategic thinking or more guardrails, enabling business technologists, all of these other things.
Mm. No, I wholeheartedly agree. I love working out in the yard and stuff like, because it does give you that, you don't have to really, you can think about things, and yeah, you can really focus. Um, what about like, we mentioned like platform engineering and those sort of things, but another thing that like kind of that DevOps community was doing is kind of that the dojo model. Have you seen any of that where, you can have a team, join a group of specialists or whatever for a period of time, 1 week or something, to kind of help almost incubate an idea and help them kind of wire everything together and get it off the ground, so that it's, again, we're doing it above board together, and we're equipping and coaching along the way. Have you seen anyone? I haven't seen it yet. I mean, we used to do the dojos for DevOps and stuff, of course, but I haven't seen it yet on the AI side as much. Haven't seen it in the market.
I've heard of it. I haven't experienced it. I wonder about the relationships because if you have a team, and remember the good old days, the Tiger teams,
Hmm.
but the Tiger teams formed and they were a team and they learned their ways of working and they achieved something together and then they went off and did other things.
Hmm.
But this dojo model, you have people and then you have a group coming in and you need to interact and you need to solve some problems together. But where's that time to build that trust and those relationships and that ways of working? And
Yeah,
I'm interested.
Yeah, I think the dojo model for me, where it always the sweet spot was where you almost had evangelists that would either, you go into a like kind of the dojo and get your training, so to speak, but then your sensei goes with you onto the team. You have somebody that kind of embed on the team to help kind of reinforce some of those things and make sure that they're taking hold. So I think that always, to me, that was the most effective pattern that I saw people using. Doesn't scale tremendously, but you don't also have to, stay with that team forever either. As an evangelist, you can go for a tour of duty, so to speak, 4 to 6 weeks, couple months, whatever, and make sure you're reinforcing what you learned in the dojo.
Now, do you do that with Calibrity as well?
We have had that model with some clients in the past where we've, kind of serve as that, those group of experts, and this is happening on platform teams. It used to be the DevOps team, and that, of course, we have to rebrand everything every 2 years. Um, but yeah, we would do that where we would kind of educate, and then we would embed with teams, embed onto those teams, and kind of do that player coach type of a model. Yeah.
I think that's really valuable. And
hmm
so then do those people then gain those skills and go and become coaches as well?
Well, I would hope so, right? Over time. I mean, I think that, you want to train the trainer kind of a thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We talked about this, I think, in the prep call. But this embedding. Did you call it fusion teams? Is that right? Do I remember the term right? Fusion team.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's similar in nature to what you were talking about. But yeah, I think that's a great model, and I would love to see the industry, kind of embracing what we were already doing before with DevOps, kind of with especially with AI, because I think it's just moving really, really fast. We need to make sure we're, you know, coming alongside of our business technologists and helping equip them for sure.
So are you familiar with, is it Awesome Copilot? It's the GitHub repo.
I am not familiar with that specific one. I don't think, but
So, and I believe I have the name right, Awesome Copilot. Um, it is a repo that the community is supporting of everything from prompts to all kinds of things to enable really cool stuff in GitHub Copilot.
that's
So I haven't used it myself. My devs are really into it.
yeah. I love all of the kind of the innovation. I love that people are sharing these things. It's really been impressive. There was one similar to that, like the one guy publishes his kind of agent.md file. It
Hmm.
calls it, what was it called? Beast mode, I think, is
Yeah,
one of the
beast
ones.
mode. Yep.
Yeah, beast mode. Well, that one's pretty cool. And I think some of these concepts it's a good thing because we're kind of distilling these things down and learning what works. And um, I know Claude Code is coming out with like kind of like the skills idea. So you can publish skills libraries and make like plugins. So I think it's definitely taken a turn. Um, I would say it seems like just towards the end of last year, like something kind of clicked. Like things became like it's different now. I don't know how to put my finger on it, like what changed, but it just seemed like it was accelerated. All these AI assisted development tools, they're starting to productize them and become more of an ecosystem and that sort of a thing now instead of just people tinkering.
I think they
It's
were
really starting
accepted
to
in
get
the
strong.
workplace.
Yeah, I mean for sure. That's like Claude Code hasn't as much. You definitely see GitHub Copilot. I mean, you know that you guys worked with it at your last job, and I'm sure you'll work with it at your new job. It's fantastic. I definitely think it's lagging behind a little bit. They're catching up quickly, though. I mean, Microsoft's got some money, so they can afford to do that. But like Claude Code is definitely, to me, seems like it's charging forward pretty quickly, and a lot of folks are following suit, which is good because they're doing some really cool stuff, and I'm glad to see that everybody's you know, supporting all of these models, these agentic models, and multi-agentic and sub-agents and reusable skills and all of these things. I think it's really going to be great over time. Hopefully, we can come up with some standards so we can start sharing these things among the tools, so it's not all only in Claude or only in Git Copilot. So,
We will. I- it- It's it's. I'm trying to think if there's anything in my lifetime that's been this impactful. Can you think of anything in yours?
I think when we finally switched to paper from chiseling in rocks, that
Yeah,
seemed
that
to
would
be a
not be in
big
my
deal.
lifetime.
That seemed to be a big deal for me. Um, no, I agree. I think I don't know that we'll see anything else as impactful. I think, the other big thing people talk about is quantum. Um, I think that, yes, that's going to have an effect, but I don't think it's going to be like everybody's talking about. I think quantum, yes, it's really cool, but it's not just simply faster computers. So I think it's going to be much more limited in its impact. Whereas AI is, I mean, it's pervasive. It touches virtually everything
And everybody,
and everybody.
non-technical people use AI, kids use AI.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I must admit, I have to ask my nieces and nephews sometime, "Hey, come here, kid. What is this?
Yeah, what
What's
do I
going
do with
on?"
this? Although I did see a funny video the other day. The guy was like, "Yeah, I hear that these robots are going to be taking all of our jobs, but you know what? I ain't heard of no robot stealing catalytic converters off of cars yet." It's
I'm
true.
glad I
It's
didn't
true.
hear that,
So
James.
there's always a market. I mean, you can always find your niche. You know what I mean?
You
So
can.
yeah. So maybe there's always going to be a market out there for the human beings to do things until we teach robots how to do that.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't think so either. All right. That With that, we need to move on to our next segment of the show. And as you know, you've been on the show before. And you listen to the show. This is our ship it or skip it segment.
Ship or skip, everybody we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
We talked about this business technologist, citizen developer type of a concept. What do you think about mandatory certification for citizen developers or business technologists before you take the gloves off? They have to be certified first.
Skip it.
Skip it. Okay,
Skip it, and here's why. I'm a big fan of governance and education, but making people do things isn't how I roll.
gotcha. Okay,
Informing people so they want to do those things. But a mandatory certification, how about if we turn that idea on its head and people are so excited about it, they're getting educated and they're bringing out best practices and new ideas. That's my concept.
yeah, I'm not big on um, mandates and those sort of things either. I do like the idea of you celebrate and you pay attention to what's important to you, and people they'll see that and they'll respond accordingly. I think of when I brought up dojo earlier in martial arts. I learned to be a martial arts instructor, and one of the things my instructor told me is when you have a student misbehaving in class, you don't get on, hey, little Johnny, what are you doing? What do you like? Cut that out. You don't do that. You go to Sally or Susie, who's sitting right next to little Johnny, like, oh my goodness, Susie, look how great you're doing. You're sitting there very still. Here's a bonus ticket or something like that. So you reinforce the good behavior and you pay attention to that. And and make it easy. Those certification programs, you could set up a program for hey, we're going to have a study group, or we're going to, do this, and we'll pay for the certification, all of those sort of things. So yeah, I like the idea of the carrot instead of the stick.
Well, I think the acceptable use policy, everyone has to understand it.
Hmm.
Legal will probably want you to sign it, and that is okay. And then after that, James, I really feel like it's going to be a self fulfilling prophecy. The folks who are not choosing to use AI may get left behind, may not be as performant as the ones who do use it. And we have to let people, the change management, give people choices. Maybe they choose another job where AI isn't as necessary, or maybe they choose to learn AI and their neighbor sitting next to them helps them. So that would be my preference.
Yeah, maybe we can stand up programs in all these enterprises around where people are stealing catalytic converters, right? You know what I mean? Like maybe every business can have that department and then just a little side revenue source.
Well, I love what I do, and I have family and friends, and some of the blue collar jobs are a lost art. trying to find a good plumber, trying to find a good electrician. Those are very meaningful, valuable jobs that we need. So if somebody's not into the computers and AI and things like that, that's okay.
Electricians and plumbers, especially right now, man, they can like write their own paycheck right
They
now,
can.
especially with these data centers coming online. People need to wire these things up, and you've got cooling, which is liquid cooling a lot of times for some of this stuff. They're printing money. Electricians right now, they're making a ton of money. So absolutely, I'd love to see a lot more folks going into the trades.
Well, you talked about education in college earlier. I really think kids need to just, what do you love to do? If you get up in
Mm.
the morning and you have a choice, what would you like to do? And maybe that's learn, maybe that, whatever it is okay. There's options, there's choices, diverse backgrounds and mindsets. We need it. We need all those puzzle pieces to fit together. We can't have the same one.
But the weird part is, like, if you ask my kids, what do you love to do? There's not a lot of call out there, a lot of jobs where you can just doom scroll all day. You know what I mean?
Do they love to doom scroll or do
No, I
they
don't think they
just
do.
doom
I'm just
scroll?
kidding.
But
I'm
what do
just kidding.
you, right? If you wake up on the weekend, what do you do when you have an option of doing anything?
Right. Yeah. What's
I
your passion?
like to build things.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's software.
Sometimes it's
Sometimes
fireplaces right
it's
behind you.
fireplaces. I learned how to plaster recently. If anyone
Ooh,
needs a good plaster work, give me a call. Contact me through the podcast.
you don't see a lot of plaster these days.
You don't.
Yeah.
You
So
don't.
that's,
But again, lost skills, right?
yeah,
But
exactly.
my superpower is building. I can build teams. I can build software. I can build strategies. It's just I recognize that about myself, and I can apply it in different ways.
All right. So we're both kind of skip it on the mandatory certification. Um, this is kind of along, some of these questions are along the lines of like, where do you draw the line, right? So what about like for these business business technologists having direct database access?
Can you confirm? Are we talking a transactional database, or are we talking about a copy of a database, like a data
That's a good,
warehouse?
that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's how you enable, you just, here's your copy of this thing.
I-
We'll feed it to you. And
If it is the data warehouse, I say ship it. They should
Mhm.
have direct access. Go for it. It's read only. That's what it's there for. You know, put the power in their hands. Transactional databases, I'm a big no.
Yeah. I mean, just the same reason we don't allow like the whole microservices thing. Like we don't have five
Yeah,
microservices
correct.
pointing at the same database. It's the same thing. And that has nothing necessarily to do with business technologists or citizen developers. It's really about, it's a abstraction violation if and when you do that. So, okay. Another thing that comes up a lot, in these, citizen developer and business technologist situations, is the G word, governance, right? Like, okay, yes, we want to foment an open and an innovative culture and environment for everyone, but we also have to have protected, stable environments to where we can put these things. What do you think about the governance model and introducing governance into the citizen development flow?
I think ship it. I think you have to have some form of governance. Back to that tiered system. Let's have appropriate governance for the appropriate layer. It's got to be easy. It's got to be intuitive, and it has to enable, not be a roadblock.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm on the fence. It kind of depends. Governance, if it starts to become a hindrance, right? You said appropriate level, so that's fine. Um, Absolutely, it will go back into the shadows. If you make things too hard, people will go back into the shadows and they'll be doing things, and you won't be able to control it anyway. So there's, of course, a balance you have to have there. I do think maybe the developer portals and making kind of the bootstrapping of these things the right way from the onset can
Hmm.
streamline that and make it easier
Absolutely.
for then there doesn't need to be as much governance if the platform is controlling the plumbing, so to speak. See, there I go again, so to
Well,
speak.
there is governance. It's just built into the platform. So
Yeah,
it's not a
it's automated
barrier.
governance. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're just putting the guardrails or the bumpers up on the bowling alley to
It's a
you
life
can't do
jacket.
it. Yeah, I like it.
You can swim in the ocean. You got the life jacket. You're good.
Yeah, you'll be okay till it gets waterlogged. Yeah,
Watch for
but that's
sharks.
yeah. Watch out for sharks. That's kind of a problem too. Okay, all right. That does it for the ship it or skip it segment of the show. Now we're on to. I can see you wringing your hands.
I'm ready.
You're a frequent listener. You know
I
what's
am.
up. You know what's up, and you know because this is why you tune in. I'm sure you just skipped through all of the mumbo jumbo, that kind of stuff we've been talking about so far, for the lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
The most important part, as you're aware, is the lightning round. This is
It
where
is.
we put aside all the frivolities and we get serious. We get down to
This is getting real. This is getting raw.
we get real with it.
Yeah.
With the lightning round. You're aware of the scoring algorithm and all of that, so I don't have to belabor the point there, but these answers do count, and you will be graded, and I just want to make sure that you have prepared yourself mentally for the lightning round.
I am prepared, James.
Since you listen, you know that we've been, and maybe the episodes haven't started coming out yet with this question, but one of the questions we've been asking a lot of folks, and this is somewhat of a social experiment, do you like the smell of gasoline?
Yes.
Okay. Say more words.
I like the smell of gasoline. I know it's not good for me. I don't inhale it much, but you have to say, "Oh, I smell gasoline," and then maybe I'll just take another sniff to confirm it's gasoline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
It's
it's
just
kind of like doing something wrong and not getting caught.
it. Okay. I like that vibe. Okay. I know if you've heard any of the episodes, you know a lot of people are saying yes to this question. A lot of people like the smell of gasoline. It's actually been the minority that don't. So it's a fascinating trend. I'm down with it. Do you believe in love at first sight?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a romantic at heart.
Okay. Fair enough. If everyone in the world had to get married when they reached a certain age, what age would that be?
32.
32. Okay. Is that good enough to know better kind of thing? Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
but still young enough to have kids if that's what they would so choose.
Yeah. Okay. Do you like the name Charlie for a girl?
Yes,
Have you ever been to Africa? Are you a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate person?
milk chocolate. I know dark chocolate is better for me. I buy it. It tastes like dirt.
Very earthy.
Yeah,
So
not a
you're
fan.
sitting around just woofing down milk chocolate and sniffing gas. That's the kind of gal you
I
are.
wouldn't say wolfing down, but I did purchase Reese's Hearts that are both milk chocolate and dark chocolate. So I
Okay.
kind of get the brownie points and I get my Kroger opt-up score because dark chocolate is a little healthier.
Hmm.
But guess
All
which
right.
ones I eat?
What's your favorite Harry Potter character?
Snape.
Snape.
Yeah.
Okay. See the guy that was dude from
A
Die
close
Hard?
second is the Sorting Hat. I want my own Sorting Hat.
Okay.
I if anybody knows where to put me in contact with one, please.
This one. Okay.
And I know I would be assigned Gryffindor. I know that in my heart.
That's the house that you would belong to.
Yeah.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy garlic?
15.
15. Okay.
Sauteing up some onions and garlic. It's like the siren song. People start coming from miles around.
I know, and you can make people think you're like this awesome chef. If you just do that, just cook that up in a
I am
pan.
this awesome chef.
Well, I know that, but I mean, you could, even if you don't want to cook something, like you're throwing something in the microwave and kind of just phoning it in. If you just throw a little garlic and onion in a pan and start, and then serve whatever you microwave, they're, oh my goodness, wow, this is so, thank you for taking the time to learn these tricks. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
I'm doing that right now.
Okay. So that's a yes then.
It is. That's a
Yes.
yes.
That's an affirmative.
And it's it's those OOFOS recovery sandals.
Okay,
They're like the
yeah.
slides, but it's cold. So I've got my Bombas on, and then I don't think I'd go out of the house like this, although I might go to Kroger or Target like this.
It's very bougie of you. I like it.
It is.
Yeah. Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
What are the animal crackers made of? Are you talking about the cookies that are called animal crackers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The little Barnum Circus thingies, you know what I'm talking about?
I'm going to say no.
You're going to say no. Because the animal crackers are like things that we don't see. It's not like we're in Africa all the time. They're lions and tigers and bears and stuff. What if it was if the animal crackers were dogs? Would it change your mind?
It might.
It might. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just curious. That was an add-on question. That was I
that's
don't
a
even
good
know that we have an
question.
algorithm for that. It
I
is.
think you know me a little bit, and you know I have a soft spot for dogs, so I'm
Yeah,
always going to advocate for
exactly.
them. They don't need
Cats,
to be
whatever.
crackers. They don't need their heads snapped off
No,
by hungry
we
people.
can't have that. Our pets' heads are falling off. We can't have that. This may be a new one added to the list. I don't know that I've ever seen this one before. What is the nickname your parents used to call you? I don't think
James,
that's a security question.
it's not a security question. I will say it, but if
Okay.
anyone repeats it, I will use AI to its fullest potential. My parents to this day call me Holly Dolly.
Holly Dolly.
Why do they do that? I'm a grown woman, CTO,
Yeah.
professional. I run teams. And when I hear Holly Dolly, I become 6 again with a bowl haircut and overalls on.
Okay, we're going to need to see pictures of that. When we release the episode, we should include that picture.
You know, my sister, who I love dearly, recently sent me a snapshot from a photo album of me in 3rd grade wearing a C-3PO necklace. It probably was 5 inches long. And she laughed so hard she could barely talk. So I'll go ahead and include that one too.
Well, and same with me. Like my grandfather was James. I was named after my grandfather. But they would call him Big Jim, and they would call me Jimmy. And so everybody knew me as Jimmy. And like my nephews, when they say, "Hey, Uncle Jimmy," like again, I'm saying, freaking chief technology officer. I'm developing these advanced technology solutions, and I'm Uncle Jimmy. Like I just yeah, I'm with you.
I'm now going to call you Uncle Jimmy.
Uncle Jimmy. Oh, you better watch it, Holly Dolly, because. All right. Let's see. Cake or pie? Where are we at on that one? Cake. Really?
Yeah. Did you think it would be pie?
I figured you'd be a pie kind of a person. I don't know where I got that.
I mean, I like pie, but cake is fluffy. It makes me happier. It has the frosting. It could have buttercream. Pie is a little more dense. It's certainly not fluffy.
No, it's not. What
And
about
pie? Sorry, pie can't come in all of the different shapes. You can make smaller pies, but then your ratio is off. But like cupcakes, yeah.
What about cheesecake? I feel like that blends. That's like on the border between pie and cake.
It's. I would say it's a pie. It's called cheesecake, but it's not fluffy.
It doesn't make sense.
A good cheesecake without all of the extras on it is delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, give me just a plain New York style cheesecake.
OG, absolutely.
Yep.
What about? Oh, I don't think you do either one of these because I know you. What about climbing a mountain or jumping from a plane?
I'm going to choose neither.
Mm-hmm.
I have mad negotiation skills, so I will negotiate my way out of both of those.
Okay.
And I will raise you lying on a beach.
Okay. So it's the heights thing, right?
It's the heights thing.
Yeah. All right. And finally, how long can you hold your breath?
Did you want me to do that now and then pass?
I mean, we could time you if you'd like. I don't know that we need an accurate reading or if you would need time to prepare. But I mean, what do you ballpark it? What do you think?
I would say actually pretty long.
Really?
Yeah, I swam quite a bit, so that kind of thing. Also,
but isn't swimming the thing that keeps you from having to hold your breath?
No, when you're underwater, what are you breathing? Do you have gills?
I don't. I always thought but swimming was the act of making sure you don't have to hold your breath. It's keeping your face out of water.
Swimming is staying afloat in water, preferably moving your arms and legs.
You heard it here, folks. First time. That's what swimming is. Okay. Well, that does it for the lightning round. Anything anything in closing, any sort of, any sort of practical takeaways you would have for the audience, or anything you got coming up that you would like to promote? Are you speaking anywhere? Are you writing a book? Do you have a one man or one woman show on Broadway? Anything like that?
More to come on that. I do have some things in the works, but I'm not ready to release them right here. Um, I'm going to wait to see if people call me Holly Dolly, and if so, I will not share those things.
Oh, okay. All right. It's conditional. I understand. But was I at least close on the one woman show on Broadway? Is that maybe a thing?
It could be a thing. I'm a big fan of Broadway musicals.
Yes.
Everyone has different gifts.
Mhm.
Mine do not include singing or dancing, but I love both of those things almost more than cheesecake.
So it's right up there with under and not above cheesecake. Less than, not even equal to. Okay. Well, this has been fabulous, just like last time. Really enjoyed having you on the show. Of course, we always like to have someone who's avid listener of the show on. Thanks for coming on. Thank you very much for being here.
James, thanks for having me. And also, thank you for having this podcast and having these technical conversations. It is enlightening and valuable, and I actually really look forward to these. I'm in a running club, and even some of the running club folks who are not technologists listen to this because it's so interesting. So I do want to give Tony a call out. I know he's listening, but thank you for putting this together. It helps move our community forward.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you. Well, with that, if you'd like to get in touch with us here at the /, drop us a line at the / at calibrity.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Calibrity. The / team is director and producer Ryan Wilson, editing by Steve Baradelli, marketing support by Taylor Blessing, and I'm your host, James Carmen. Thanks for listening.